Hey, I'm Jeff Baumgartner at Light Reading. We're here in Philadelphia at SCTE Cable Tech Expo. I'm joined by Mark Trudeau with OpenVault. Mark, good to see you.
Great to see you too, Jeff.
We're back in person, which is a nice thing.
It sure is, yeah.
All right. So today I think we're going to talk a little bit about, every quarter you come out with these reports, they provide a lot of insight in terms of what's happening on these networks in terms of usage, and we'll get into what happened in the pandemic and the earlier stages of it and so forth. But you just came out with, I think, the second quarter result and the report. And one of the big takeaways was some data you saw related to people involved with the Affordable Connectivity Program, the ACP, right? And it sounded like usage among that group was pretty high compared to everybody else. So, I mean, what was, talk a little bit about that finding, yeah.
Sure, yeah, and frankly, we're still in the early stages of really analyzing the impact that those customers are going to have on the networks, but we were surprised by the initial results of looking at their usage per household, how it compares to the average customer that we cover, right? And we're, just to clarify, we're collecting data from millions and millions of subscribers, and that's the data that gets aggregated and summarized and analyzed that ends up in these reports, right? So we look across multiple types of key metrics, and average household usage is obviously one that there's a lot of interest in, and what we found was, ACP subscribers were literally using over 600, somewhere in the neighborhood of 650 gigabytes per household is how much data they're consuming, and that's versus about 490 gigabytes in the average household.
That's a pretty big jump, right? Because you're able to see the data, but in terms of like the context, like why, it's like, is it because they're just getting on there and they're just going nuts? Like, hey, look at this novelty, I'm going to stream everything under the sun, or,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you have any insight into that, but have you found any indicators in terms of why you saw that spike?
Yeah, so we don't have insights into the actual applications being used, but what I can tell you is it does appear that a lot of the ACP subscribers are actually taking that base package that the operator will offer, but then they're spending money actually to upgrade to higher bandwidth speeds.
Oh, so they already have like a service and they're using it to say, I want to bump myself up.
Or they're coming on as a subscriber under a service that could be free to them, but they're opting to pay a bit more for those faster speeds. And historically, we've seen a strong correlation, obviously, between speed and usage levels. Right. So, based on the kind of bandwidth that they're getting, it's not, I guess, a surprise that they're using more. It's just a surprise to me, and I think a lot of people, that they're actually truly upgrading to those speeds to begin with. And I think that's contributing a lot to the usage delta.
All right. I think it's really interesting that you're actually able to focus on that segment of the customer base. And we've gotten into your reports for quarter to quarter. But explain a little bit on how you put that data together in general, and then how are you able to apply that to be able to filter in the customers that are in the program?
So we're actually correlating lots of data. It's not just subscriber usage data. So off of the networks, we're able to collect that information. We're able to then correlate it with subscriber level package information. So we'll take an export from a billing or CRM system from the operator, and we're able to correlate all that data. So we know, okay, well, here's the subscriber, here's what their usage is, here's what their package plan is and their bandwidth speed. And we're able to kind of pull all that in one place, and that's what allows us to isolate an ACP customer from somebody else, or any kind of package plan. We can report specifically on the usage behavior of subscribers on that package plan. So it's really about the more and different types of data that we're able to collect, the more of those types of insights we can provide.
Okay, and in general, we saw we just saw the big spike in usage among the ACP customers. But before that, when we were in the earlier stages of the pandemic, when everything was going through the roof, and then it kind of, evened out a little bit. But if you looked at Q2 in general, what was the kind of the big takeaway, not just from ACP, but just the entire universe that you're looking at?
Well, I think as you rightly point out, 2020, and we did a lot of deep dives into the data, come March of 2020 with the pandemic, and tracked it, moving forward, and absolute huge spike in usage, both on downstream and particularly on upstream on a percentage basis, huge, right? And as you point out, things did level off, but we've returned to more seasonality at this point. We've always seen the second quarter a little bit of a dip versus the first quarter.
Okay.
That's pretty standard, albeit now we're at high levels still, right? We never came back down from.
It didn't just fall off a cliff.
It did not fall off a cliff. In fact, it has stayed really very high, but we have returned now to seasonality. So, because as you can imagine, the second quarter of 2020 was a huge spike. We had never seen that before in that particular quarter. So we've returned to some normality, I guess, from that standpoint.
Okay. Yeah, and as far as like the kind of insights that you're providing to the ISPs, right? Because you're taking, you're looking through data, it's anonymized, but what else are they looking for with that in terms of just general usage? I mean, they're looking for other trends. Obviously, with got people on usage-based billing versus flat rate stuff, you delineate that sort of thing as well.
Right.
But what else are they kind of looking for this data to determine?
Well, since all these networks are shared, right, they're looking to really understand the impacts that individual subscribers can have on the network. And one of the things that our data tells us is that, really when there's network congestion, it's oftentimes just a couple of subscribers that are causing issues for everybody else. So number one, it's identifying who those subscribers are in real time so that the operator could take some sort of action. Because if you think about in a DOCSIS world, on a node, you might have 200 subscribers. If that node is congested, really nobody on that node is getting the service that they're paying for, right? So they're
kind of getting steamrolled.
They're getting steamrolled by maybe 2 or 3 subscribers. So if there's an ability to identify who those are, maybe it's maybe you could run a fiber line to that, how to get them off of that part of the plant and open up the pipe for everybody else. So there's a lot of focus on understanding usage behavior at that level, really to try to improve, the network health and basically the experience of the subscriber.
But then, like you said, you can identify somebody, because that's the other thing we've been a lot of discussion about here. It's like the future of the network is not just HFC, it's HFC plus fiber to the prem, even in brownfield, right? And these new architectures will allow kind of that optionality. And and I guess this way, they at least have a feel for that use case.
And they can prioritize, where they're going to go and address first. And there really is a very real correlation, again, to use that term, between those congested nodes and phone calls and truck rolls and all those operational expenses that operators have to deal with. So the more they can do to understand it and clean it up and make the right decisions, the more they can bring down that OpEx and provide a better service to their subscribers.
And the last thing I want to talk about is the other trend that I think you OpenVault sees quarter to quarter, and that is the difference in usage between customers that are on unlimited or what's the term you guys use?
Well, we use flat rate billing.
Flat rate, versus usage-based billing, which we sometimes call data caps and things like that. But it seems like everybody on the people on the unlimited side of it, the usage is higher. Is it just because they just have free reign and they're more and then the people on the usage-based side are more cognizant of that and are not necessarily curtailing, but they're kind of managing how they use data?
Yeah, we've tracked that for a long time, and consistently the flat rate billing type of package offerings results in higher usage, in particular at the high end. So, a lot of operators will certainly put, if you're in a UBB program, you'll have limits that might start at 1 terabyte and go up from there. In a flat rate where it's kind of all you can eat, there are no limits. So we're seeing a lot higher percentage of real power users on those types of networks than we are on those that offer usage-based billing. So that's dragging up the average and causing a lot more strain on the network too. And I would throw one more thing in there. What we've seen is we've tracked everything from net promoter scores to upgrades and things like that as well with those 2 different types of package offerings. There's a perception that net promoter scores and customer satisfaction is lower on usage-based billing type of plans because of the the
Right.
idea of a usage cap.
Right. It's like, oh, I hear a cap, and automatically you're like,
Correct.
You have a
The reality
there's a
is,
stigma to it.
There is a stigma to it. The reality is, it's the opposite. Those operators that have usage-based billing in place tend to have higher net promoter scores, and the theory is that customers self-select to upgrade their service because they want that higher usage limit and a higher quota before they start getting charged overage fees. So there's a lot more upgrades and much higher ARPU, positive ARPU impacts for usage-based billing providers. And the ARPU growth doesn't come from those overage fees. It comes from actually upgrades to higher bandwidth tiers with higher quotas, happier customers, better net promoter scores over time. Yeah, so it's a little bit counterintuitive to what a lot of operators think out there, and those that are considering, do we want to deploy usage-based billing or not? We're very big proponents of it. We've seen the benefits and the fact that at the end of the day, subscribers are happier on those types of programs.
That's interesting, yeah, because I think the cable operators and other ISPs always like to promote the fact that when they have a usage-based offering, like, well, it's a very, it's a sliver of the base, and the perception is, well, you're just, gouging these guys.
Yeah, that's not the case.
But it's not the case.
It's not the case, and it does. The usage quotas do tend to really impact just a small percentage of your customer base. But as subscribers continue to move up in terms of usage, they might start to bump up against their quota. And there's usually a nice pathway to get that next tier and a much higher quota, and then you're nowhere near the quota anymore.
Right,
and that's what we see.
You're at a comfortable level again.
Correct.
Yeah.
You got plenty of headroom.
Great. Well, Mark, it was good to catch up with you. Look forward to more insights. It's great that each time you're able to kind of grab something different, out of the data outside of just the basic usage. But it was good to see you. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Likewise. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Mark.